After 2 weeks of the NFL season, I find myself asking myself, which is the most fun team in the NFL so far? Not the best team, not the team that's most likely to go out there and win the Super Bowl or even make it to the conference championship games or have large success in the playoffs and build up the largest record, but which is the most fun team, the team that I have the most enjoyment watching? For many years, it's always been the 49ers because they always had the most amazing receivers and they play the West Coast offense. And all you need is a quarterback who can get it to you and pinpoint accuracy. And they were able to do that for many years, not last year because of injuries. So last year, I said it was the Baltimore Ravens with them bringing in Derrick Henry. And Lamar Jackson's always electric. He should have won MVP last year. And also the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions are fun for so many reasons. The way they just always go for it on fourth. They just try stuff like laterals in the middle of the game and hook and ladder plays to the tackle and just a bunch of crazy stuff that Dan Campbell's mind just comes up with. So those have been the most fun teams in the NFL for me over the last few years. But this season, with the 49ers getting rid of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk's not back, and they're still relying on Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings, and good players, very good players, but not the upper caliber names. And now with Brock Purdy being injured and Christian McCaffrey not having a dominant force on games yet, they still have a very good defense, but I don't think that they're as fun to watch anymore, especially with Brock Purdy being hurt now. And the Ravens are, and I still enjoy watching the Ravens, but they haven't gotten that spark out of me yet. The Lions, we saw them destroy the Bears, and that was very fun to see, and they're still in that category conversation. But hands down, I think the number one most fun team to watch actually isn't even the Buffalo Bills as well. I think it's the Los Angeles Rams. I love watching this Rams team. So let's start from the beginning. Matthew Stafford is one of the best passers in the NFL. Not throwers, but passers. There's a difference between being a great thrower and a great passer. A great thrower is more talent. Big arm, be able to get it with a lot of velocity, able to get a lot of height on the ball, sheer talent. Obviously has to be accurate, of course, or else you're just, useless. But you think more of talent and physical traits. But great passing is more IQ. It's more about placement. Matthew Stafford doesn't have the biggest arm, but he always seems to get it, or more often than not get it, in a pinpoint place where his receiver can get the ball and the defender can't get the ball. And that's something that I respect so much about Matthew Stafford, which is why, think about this with Matthew Stafford. Calvin Johnson set the NFL record for most receiving yards in a season in 2012, I believe. One of the best receiving seasons you'll ever see from a wide receiver who didn't make the playoffs. Cooper Kupp had probably the greatest single season ever for a wide receiver. He won the Triple Crown, led the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns, and then dominated in the playoffs, had many touchdowns in the playoffs, and then was Super Bowl MVP with 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I don't know if any other NFL player has been Offensive Player of the Year, Triple Crown winner, and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. Any wide receiver has done that, and he maybe had the best wide receiver season ever. 2 years later, Puka Nacua gets drafted in the 5th round out of BYU, a receiver that many of us didn't have on our radar because if we did, he would have been drafted in the 1st round. So we didn't think much of him. We just thought, okay, maybe he's just a plug-and-play guy that can be a supplemental guy to Cooper Kupp, who is the number 1 receiver for the Rams, obviously, as he should be. I just mentioned the season he had 2 years before that. And Puka Nacua comes out and has the greatest single season we've ever seen for a rookie wide receiver. Has, I think, over 1,300 yards, several touchdowns, had over 100 yards in their playoff game. He was the best rookie wide receiver, and controversial opinion, but I believe that he should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. They gave it to C.J. Stroud. I totally understand why they gave it to C.J. He's a quarterback, and for a quarterback to be that good in their rookie season, their true rookie season, is rare. You don't see that often, so I get why they gave it to C.J., but I actually thought that what Puka Nacua did was more impressive from a large-scale point of view because we haven't had a receiver have that good of a rookie season. With quarterbacks, we've seen, Baker Mayfield or Justin Herbert have great seasons themselves. They didn't win as much, but that's more because of the team around them. And Puka Nacua had a fantastic season. All 3 of those players that I just mentioned, what's their similarity? They were all quarterbacked by Matthew Stafford. That is not a coincidence. Clearly, he does a great job of building a relationship with his number 1 receiver, or a guy who plays like his number 1 receiver, because with Cooper Kupp having many injury issues over the last few years, with Cooper Kupp having those, Puka Nacua really became the Rams' #1 wide receiver, and he established himself in that threshold, and he just took over that team. Puka Nacua is part of the reason why Cooper Kupp went over to the Seahawks. There's no question about it. I don't think if they have Puka Nacua that Cooper Kupp isn't still in LA. And then they bring in Davante Adams, still one of the best receivers in the NFL, who's not washed, who's not done, still one of the most elite, crisp, precise route runners that you see in the league, with great agility and with great speed and just a monstrous catch radius. Had over 100 yards last week against the Titans as well. I mean, fantastic, incredible. And then the defense, a very underrated defense with guys like Jared Verse, who was, the defensive rookie of the year last year and such a talented, fun player to watch, and many other guys there as well. A really good defensive unit that I don't think gets enough credit. This might be certainly the most fun offense to watch in the league and arguably the most fun team that I've seen so far in the NFL. I know they had kind of a boring game against the Texans, but Puka Nacua did his thing. Davante Adams couldn't really get in the game, but they had, White and Washington and a couple other guys who aren't big name guys come in and get touchdowns and large receptions as well, because Matthew Stafford is able to build that relationship. And Sean McVay has very clever play calling. Nacua had a 45-yard rushing touchdown against the Titans this past Sunday as well. That just shows you the creativity of Sean McVay. So the Rams, so far for me, are the most fun team to watch in the NFL. They're probably the team that I've enjoyed watching the most overall. And when they're playing, even if my Commanders are playing or the Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Ravens are playing, I can't help but keep an eye peeked on what they're doing, even if it's against a lower level team that they should beat. You always have to stay interested because they are a very fun bunch to watch. So Rams right now are my #1, and they obliterated the Titans. Cam Ward did a couple of really good things. He had one scramble drill, running everywhere, and he was able to just lob it up and throw for a touchdown. There's clearly talent there. That's why he was the #1 overall pick, and I'm not going to eviscerate a quarterback and his entire journey after 2 games. I don't believe we allow quarterbacks to develop anymore because coaches are too afraid of losing their job. I understand it, but that's the hard truth overall. But the Rams put up another 33 points. Stafford did throw a pick, but they put up another big game on offense, and they, played pretty well on defense, having a few turnovers as well. And they look very fun. And I enjoy watching the Rams so much. I'm glad that Matthew Stafford stayed, because obviously there was speculation that Stafford could leave at the end of this year. The Giants were in consideration before they got Russell Wilson. Several other teams. He talked to many other teams. I saw his New Heights interview. He was even saying he was looking at Zillow for houses and stuff in all these cities because he didn't know where he was going to play afterwards. But he's staying with the Rams for now. I think that's where he'll end his career. Puka Nacua, I'm not going to say that he's better than Justin Jefferson or better than Jamar Chase or better than any of these upper echelon 1-1 receivers, but he's certainly a top 10 receiver. Could he even potentially be a top 5 receiver in the NFL? I'm not against that idea, and I wouldn't put it past saying that he is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He's that good. He's that good. He may not have the overwhelming physical, athletic attributes where you just say, oh my God, like many of these other wide receivers have, like a Chase, like a Justin Jefferson, like a CeeDee Lamb, even like a great slot player, like a slot receiver like Amon-Ra, or, one of those guys. He may not be that, or even Nico Collins, which is just a great deep threat as well as being incredibly athletic. He may not be that, but he is a damn dog whenever he is, route running, rack moves, trying to go and get the ball. He just brings such an intensity to the game, and I love watching that guy play. And hey, with the way the NFL is going with contracts, it's not necessarily about if you're the best at that position, you're going to be paid the highest. It's if your time is coming up and you are good enough. That's just the way it works. Let's not forget, Joe Burrow signed a contract, 5 years, $275 million. I think either a year or 2 years later, I think a year later, Trevor Lawrence, who isn't Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence has won one playoff game, and he signed the same contract, 5 years, $275 million. Not because he's equal to Joe Burrow, because it was Trevor Lawrence's time to get paid. That's really all it was. Dak Prescott broke that by a lot, got paid $60 million per year because it was his time to get paid after the Cowboys stalled for a long period of time. It's all about when your time comes. And for Puka Nacua, I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks the bank and becomes the highest paid receiver in NFL history. Jamar Chase got 4 years, $161. Could Puka Nacua get 4 years, $164? Who knows? I think Nacua strikes me as the type of guy to be willing to take a pay cut or just a lower level pay to keep some of this roster together, to maybe get Devontae Adams for an extra year or 2 years, to maybe get another year you can get out of Matthew Stafford. And, you're going to need to pay Jared Verse, not after this season, but after next season, to keep some of those core around. Maybe he won't take max dollar because Jamar Chase really broke the bank. I mean, let's not forget, it was Justin Jefferson who signed for, I think it was $35 million a year, and Jamar Chase didn't go for 36, 37. I think CeeDee Lamb went for just $1 million over what Justin Jefferson got, but Chase said, "I'm gonna obliterate both of them, break the bank totally." It was a year after them, but he really, really recouped and went 4 years, 161. Could Puka Nacua get 4 years, 164? He absolutely could. I doubt it, but I think he's worth it given the trajectory of where NFL contracts are. And yeah, Los Angeles Rams, that's my team. That's the most fun team in the NFL. I understand the Packers and the Lions and the Ravens, of course, and the Eagles. And the Eagles haven't been really fun to watch so far. But those teams that are big name teams. But right now, I'm saying I think the Los Angeles Rams are the most fun team to watch in the NFL after the first 2 weeks.